But do you think a relationship can truly repair and heal after someone has cheated? Or do you think—
Not when a woman cheats.
When a woman cheats, you think it's a lot harder, or you just don't think it's possible?
Not possible.
Really?
Yeah, I would honestly say, from what I see, every time a man forgives a woman cheating, she eventually leaves him for forgiving her.
When someone is wearing a mask or living a double life, meaning they have a relationship or a marriage or kids, but then they're going out and trying to seek something else somewhere else, to live a different identity, to express themselves in a different way. What is that saying about them that they're either missing or that they need to work on to overcome?
They're unable to have difficult conversations with the people they need to have it with. Wow. So instead, they just find a way to release the energy and mask what that need is, rather than actually confront the issue where it should be. So whoever they have fallen in love with or started a life with, they started it on more kind of on the dynamic that you were describing in your 20s. They started it on that dynamic of suppressing who they truly are, suppressing their true needs, but not having the courage to walk away and not having the courage to end it. And as a result, they've had to maintain this false identity for the rest of their life, which as they get older and they get more disgruntled and they fear, like the fear of losing their family decreases. As men age, it's not like their sex drive goes up, but their willingness to cheat kind of sometimes goes up because they're like, oh, they're a bit more brave. So they end up then, engaging in behaviors that they shouldn't be doing. And it's all stems from, if they just had a more vulnerable, honest conversation with the person they love to begin with, they wouldn't find themselves searching for themselves in other people.
I couldn't agree more. In a lot of the Reddit cheating stories I cover, and many of the stories I see shared in a subreddit for cheaters, the majority of people who step out on their partners are too scared to have a real conversation with their wife or husband. So instead, they take what I'd call the coward's way out by finding themselves a side piece, then come up with 1,000,001 reasons to justify what they're doing. And in many of these stories, they end up developing real feelings for this person, and the man or woman who's waiting for them at home has no idea. It's quite sad, honestly.
From the men that you're working with, that you hear conversations with, are you hearing that more men cheat or more women cheat?
From my experiences, more women. Yeah, from my experiences, and there are a couple of reasons for that is women are naturally, in my experience and being a woman myself, is we're a bit more aware of a man's propensity to cheat. So we're not particularly naive when it comes to when he's gone for too long and he hasn't answered too many calls and he hasn't been available. We're a bit more attuned to these signs, and we kind
What's
of
happening? And when you ask him, hey, where were you? And you weren't saying what was happening, you were vague.
We've had friends that have been cheated on that tell us all about it, and they tell us all the signs. Our mums might tell us all the signs and stuff. Whereas for men, that conversation is so sacred. They don't really have that with each other. So they're also missing. So they go in with a little bit of naivety that women just don't cheat.
I can't tell you how many Reddit cheating stories I've gone through in which the guy's just like, I trusted her completely, as if cheating was an impossible thing to happen in their relationship. While some women who've shared their stories also say that they trusted their partner, it's not with the same level of conviction as the guys. Men tend to see women as these deities who can never do anything wrong, which is even evident in the fact that a lot of boys don't even think girls need to take a shit every now and again. While this obviously changes as they get older, the purity that men see in the women remains, which can lead to them being blindsided.
Whatsoever. They just think my wife would never. That's their common thing, that she would never. And the other thing is they're not attuned to the signs. They're not attuned to the signals. So when she is depriving him of affection or depriving him of attention, or when she starts taking care of herself and going out a little bit more or making more of an effort to go to work, they just see that as normal feminine behavior. They just see that as, girls getting dressed up. They don't necessarily see the signs that it's a change in dynamic. They don't pick up the signals as much. They become a little bit curious, but they don't become accusatory the same way that,
really?
Yeah.
Were you saying, why do women cheat more?
That's straight up facts. If you start to see sudden changes in your partner, it doesn't mean they're cheating. But depending on the change, you may want to keep an eye out. Especially if the frequency in which you and your partner are having sex has taken a nosedive.
What are you thinking about why women cheat more? If that's true,
in
I
my
don't know if it's
personal experience with the women that do cheat, it's not that all women cheat, but the women that do cheat, it's very little to do with the woman herself. It's more to do with the man she selects.
Really?
Yeah. In my experience, I can look at a couple and tell by the man if she's going to cheat. Where the men and her have a very strong dynamic, where it's very clear that they know each other inside out and where they can be themselves completely. And more so than anything, I can tell she feels safe in his company. It's unlikely she cheats. Yeah, but where I feel like she's kind of the boss, or she feels like she doesn't respect his opinion, and it's not necessarily she's just like he's kind of allowed himself to take that backseat, where she can disrespect him openly, where she feels like she can tell him anything and he just instantly believes it and follows her commands. It sets him in a position where she doesn't have a fear of losing him. And as a result of no fear of losing him, there's an openness to try alternatives because she knows if worst case scenario he finds out, he's still going to stay.
Personally, I wouldn't say you can always tell if a woman's going to cheat based on the man she's with, because sometimes people just find themselves making a commitment to someone who's incapable of being loyal and standing by their word. That said, if you forgive a cheater and take them back, what you're sort of saying is, I can't do better than you, so please, please stay with me. If a cheater picks up on that kind of desperation, the chance of them stepping out again is super high, because they haven't had to suffer any real consequences.
And that's
it's a fairly dismal view of people.
I know.
You've just put forward.
Well, unless they have
because what we're saying is that
unless they don't have values within themselves.
right. The thing that's missing from this conversation is values on the men's and the women's side. Is that it's kind of the idea there with women is that if they don't respect their man, they'll cheat, as opposed to they'll cheat if they lack the values.
I don't care how much someone claims to love their partner. If they cheat on their partner, they simply don't respect them. If me and a friend agree to be somewhere at a certain time, and I turn up late because I just wasn't that bothered, through my actions, I'd be telling that friend that I don't respect them or their time. After all, if I did, I would have made a genuine effort to turn up when I said I would. If you're with someone who cheats on you, and they know that their actions have a good chance of hurting you if you ever found out, I don't care what their reasoning is. In my eyes, they couldn't give a shit about you. Otherwise, they would have considered you at the time.
That prevents someone from cheating.
But I would imagine their values determines what they select in the process. When you have those values that open you up to sex, you tend to select people who have a kind of agreeableness that allows for that. And I would say the same for men. Men who know they have a propensity to cheat are probably not going to select a very strong-minded woman who will say, absolutely not, I will walk away if this happens. They tend to select. I think their values it affects their selection process. And so they select a more agreeable and less secure individual to begin with.
But you must know, I know plenty of very strong women who have been cheated on.
Personally, I think when someone gets cheated on, it depends mostly on who's doing the cheating. And in regard to this strong woman thing, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that a strong-minded woman isn't going to choose a partner who can't keep up with her. If anything, she's going to choose a man who's on her level or higher. And if that guy has the ability to attract other women and believes he can get away with cheating, he might be one to stray, depending on his belief system, of course.
Yeah, I do know plenty of strong women who've been cheated on, but in the process of being cheated on, at the time of selection, they weren't strong. But when you've been severely hurt by somebody, you have to look at the day you selected them. Chances are, if you select somebody who's very difficult and treats you badly, and then on top of that cheats, the day you selected them, you were not in a secure place.
I don't know if I can buy that. That may be true for some,
or maybe you didn't ask all the right questions. Yeah, you didn't get all the information.
The signs.
But I think there is a kind of, there are plenty of people who wind up with people who end up treating them very poorly.
Yeah.
Where there was just they just could not have foreseen.
To be fair, I think both Matt and Sadia are correct on this. Sometimes people choose to settle down with someone who is surrounded by red flags from day one. But for some reason, they chose to look past them or ignore them altogether. You also have people who've been together for years, and over time, they've changed, and their desires and moral compass may have changed too. So when someone cheats in a situation like this, it wasn't painfully obvious that they'd do such a thing when they first started dating.
that this person was...
I always argue the opposite. I say humans, nobody lies. And the reason I say nobody lies, and the reason I say that is verbally we can all lie. I can sit here and tell you I'm a blonde, but you as a human being are responsible for assessing whether my words and behaviors align.
Right, but I don't know if you're going to cheat on me in 5 years.
I personally...
I can't go into a relationship going, I know for sure you won't cheat on me in 5 years. And if by the rationale that you said men cheat in relationships, which is that they essentially feel like they've put in their service, like they're in the army and they've done their time. And, you know, at that point they feel like, God, you know what? I really feel entitled to an escort or to this stage. By that rationale, you couldn't have seen it with that guy because back when he was putting in his service, he was a totally committed man.
Exactly. Life is an ever-changing thing. So it's difficult, if not impossible, to know what someone's going to be like 5 or 10 years from now. The only thing you can do is pay close attention to someone's words and actions, and act accordingly as you go along.
Chances are most cheaters have cheated in the past and they've told you something. They've told you something. They won't tell you directly, but they might give you hints where they might say, oh, and we weren't working out. And so towards the end, I met somebody, and they'll use that common phrase towards the end. Or they might say, or you might just notice that they are a hypersexual. They need that as a form of connection all the time. So if you deprive them of that, the key thing is you've got to know what people are like in terms of what they do when they're at their worst. If you've noticed at their worst, they can be emotionally abusive. At their worst, they can be cheaters. They kind of show you that in the courting stage before marriage.
Sure, but someone can be hypersexual and just be great sex in a relationship. How are you to know that hypersexual means they're going to have an inability to be monogamous versus they've just got a very high sex drive that's going to make for a great sex life in a relationship?
If I deprive them of that hypersexuality is not going to go anywhere.
The first thing that came to my mind was, why are you withholding sex from your partner? See, there could be a valid reason as to why a couple's sex life has died down, or it could simply be that one person just isn't feeling it anymore. Even without being hypersexual, if someone finds themselves in a dead bedroom relationship, chances are things aren't going to end well, be it through getting a divorce or cheating.
But what is the number one cause of relationships ending in your mind?
I think it's probably a combination of ingratitude and poor conflict resolution. Given that, like, let's say we select wisely and we've done all that work, once we're in the relationship, unfortunately, we're faced with something that we never had in previous generations, which is social media. And we're faced with endless alternatives, whether it's through the use of pornography, whether it's escort services, whether it's just liking pictures online. So we've got so many alternatives to the current situation that we are in. So it breeds ingratitude in both men and women. From a female perspective, they're constantly looking at couple content online where people seem super happy and excited, and they get to see the edited, airbrushed versions of relationships, which naturally ignites their jealousy in the sense that my husband no longer does that with me.
And these are the perfect guys doing this with these other women.
Yeah, and look at how he looks at her, not knowing that it's totally staged and edited and stuff. So they kind of compare that desirability with the ones that they see online. Men, on the other hand, can, kind of compare women more sexually with pornography and, the beautiful, endless beautiful women that you see online, which then creates an ingratitude. And as a result, people are not nurturing their own relationships, but spending a lot of time comparing with alternatives.
For the longest time, I've always thought that after the workplace, social media is the biggest relationship killer. It's just too easy to reach out to someone and strike up a seemingly innocent conversation that turns into a full-blown encounter. If there's someone in your partner's DMs who's sexually interested in them, that person doesn't have to be overt about what they're after. They just need to keep your partner engaged for long enough so that one day, perhaps when your relationship's a little rocky, they drop their guard so they can move in for the kill.
We're talking about why relationships fail. In the previous episode we talked a little bit about cheating, but I'm curious, in this day and age, I'm curious who you guys think cheats more. Mm-hmm. We've heard that both men and women cheat, but just women are better at hiding it.
Yeah.
And that men get caught easier, and women are just good at hiding it.
Is that true?
I mean, that's kind of the thing. It's like, both men and women, not everyone, but men and women do cheat. Mm-hmm. But women are less at getting caught, I guess. I don't know. They're smarter about it, or they're just, I don't know.
And they have more opportunities than the average man.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the average woman will have at least somebody will sleep with her. Like, you know, she doesn't have to have that much going for her. She doesn't have to have a great job, and she doesn't have to have, you know, a lot of charm and wit. She can jump on an app and it's a bit easier for her. Whereas for the average man, it's not as easy. So I think the opportunity is higher.
Interesting. Is that why? And guys, I guess, are hitting on women more than women are hitting on men, right?
So the temptation is a bit different there as well. But
what's the stats right now? Do we know if men are cheating more than women these days, or are women cheating more than
the stats, I would
women?
always argue that women don't admit that they're cheating as much. You know, there's almost a pride to men when they cheat and stuff like that. They're always a bit more open about it. I know some of my closest friends that have cheated. Even to me, while I've been in the process, they'll pretend they haven't cheated. So there's a part of them that denies cheating. But
Is that men or women?
Women. Yeah, women. Even
but then
my
later
female,
they'll admit
but I've
to
been
it.
in the process. They're like, no, but that time we weren't really together, or that time we weren't together. And so, but there was a simultaneous connection. But what I would say is, I don't know who cheats more or who cheats less, but I think when women cheat, there is it's more definitive, as in that it's harder for them to come backwards from cheating.
Generally speaking, when it comes to simply hooking up, women are much more discerning than men about who they sleep with. Some people will say that it's a societal thing, and others say it's because of evolution. But personally, I think the evolutionary stance makes more sense. And in fact, is what influenced how we see sexuality in men and women as a society. Back when we didn't have the technology and infrastructure we have today, I'm talking way back, like when we were living purely off the land, getting pregnant and giving birth was extremely risky for women. So naturally, they had to be more selective about their mates to increase their chances for survival. But guys, on the other hand, didn't have the same risks. So getting pregnant and giving birth has never been a concern. So having sex has always just been less risky for men.
I tend to, and I don't know if you guys would agree, I tend to give the advice to men that when your woman cheats on you, it's very difficult to forgive her. I wouldn't recommend it. I highly don't recommend it.
Men shouldn't forgive
Men shouldn't
her?
forgive.
Why not?
With women, I think there's room for flexibility depending on the causes and
This
so.
is going to get a lot of. It's going to get a lot of comments.
With
Okay,
men,
why should men not forgive the women they're with who cheat on them?
Because for a woman to cheat on you, it's not that she's fallen in love with another man. She's just definitely not in love with you.
Ooh, man,
and
that's
so
gonna
for
hurt.
you to take her back is just providing her free accommodation until she meets a man she wants to fall in love with. And like a lot of men think, oh no, women are so emotionally attached to sex. No. Some women can literally have an affair with a local PT who doesn't care about her and she doesn't really care about him. It's what the driving force is not the love for the guy that she's cheating on. It's the lack of love and respect for the man she's cheating on.
And this is where we get into the whole double standards thing about how when men cheat on women, it's different, which I think mostly comes down to how we treat sex. I think the majority of relationships are doomed after cheating, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that, at least in my own life, women are much more forgiving when it comes to this sort of thing. But why is that? In my experience, women have been willing to take the guy back because he didn't really care about the other woman. He just wanted to blow off some steam. For guys, though, I think there are various things at play, such as the damage to our ego, the fact that there's a high chance she's emotionally invested in this other guy. And most devastatingly, what if she gets pregnant and I end up raising a kid that isn't mine?
Interesting.
Yeah, and so when you forgive her and retry with the relationship, she's already decided she doesn't really want to be with you, but she will stay in this until she finds someone that will love her.
So if a man cheats on a woman that he's in a committed relationship with, is it also saying he doesn't respect and love her?
I think it's not so much a matter of love isn't so much the component, it's more of a lack of respect. It's more of a lack of respect and a lack of fear of losing the relationship or whatever it is. I mean, I can't speak for men, but a lot of them can say that they can compartmentalize. They can still really want their relationship to work. They can still really, this is all illusionary, but this is what they say. They want their relationship to work. They love their wife very deeply. They want all of that, but they are just outsourcing the sex because it might be lacking or it's not the way they like it, or they're outsourcing a feeling. in my experience with women, when they cheat, it's not so much that there's something they're craving outside. It's just there's something in the house that they're just not happy with, and as a result, they will cheat. And I've been in situations where I've had clients come on the phone or a video call, and I've switched on my screen and I've looked at the couple and I'll say, I can tell she's cheating.
No way.
Without saying a word. They haven't said a word to me. And I remember the last couple I did this with, and I looked and I thought, she's having an affair, but I'm not going to say anything.
You said it publicly? Or?
After a comment. And I said, what brings you here? And she started with, we have a great relationship. We're very good. Everything is good. We just don't love each other anymore. And I said, can you be honest with me? Are you having an affair? And she said, well, recently, and it transpired that she has having an affair. And I said, I can tell by your lack of connection to your husband, your lack of love. Most people, when they come on a therapy call, he was all suited and booted, ready for this call, like, save my marriage. Oh. She was literally just like, oh God, do we have to do this? Like, the disconnect that was there was no coming back from him. There was literally from her energy. It looked like she was held like by the throat to be there. Oh, and that's such a common theme when a woman cheats. It seems to be like, I'm not actually in love with you anymore, but I'll make it work because the guy, like, I haven't got many alternatives.
When it comes to couples therapy, I think it's something couples should be doing long before any cheating has occurred. I don't know, maybe even 1 or 2 sessions a year could help and prevent someone from getting to the stage in which they're cheating. In the comments, there were netizens who were both for and against what Matt and Sadia had to say about this issue. But this one really stood out to me because I've seen the sentiment repeated over and over again. So, to summarize, my ex-girlfriend cheated on me, and she begged for my forgiveness when I caught her. I decided to give her another chance. However, after being together for 4 years, she randomly made the decision to end our relationship. Following the breakup, she did her thing for a little over a year. Surprisingly, she approached me to get back together. She confessed that she quietly cheated on me a second time before she ended the relationship. She went on to reveal other details about her other flings, and then claimed that she had changed, expressing a desire to reconcile. Naturally, I strongly refused. I'm gonna have to side with Sadia on this one. Again, it's why I always think it's best to exit a relationship if cheating occurs. While some people can pull through it, what this netizen went through with his girlfriend happens a lot, with both men and women.
But do you think a relationship can truly repair and heal after someone has cheated? Or do you think
not when a woman cheats?
When a woman cheats, you think it's a lot harder, or you just don't think it's possible?
Not possible.
Really?
Yeah, I would honestly say, from what I see, every time a man forgives a woman cheating, she eventually leaves him for forgiving her.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why is that? It's just because of lack of self-respect? Is it a lack of...
She understands now that there is no boundaries to this relationship. Most women are under the impression that a man would leave. Men tend to think that women can be a bit softer and emotional and they can kind of convince them. Most women tend to assume men will leave because that's what they tell each other. Oh, I would never put up with it. I would never put up with it. So when she learns he's willing to accept the unacceptable, she now realizes unacceptable behavior will run with him. And therefore, there is no motivator to prevent it happening again. So I've always seen, again, I have to preface this, I see worst case scenarios, but I've always seen it become a repeat offender. I'm not saying men don't do it the same way, but I'm just saying in my experience I've seen when women cheat, you're simply waiting for her to leave you now.
In a lot of the Reddit cheating stories I cover on this channel, this is something that's very common with both men and women. For some of these cheaters, the only thing that changes after they get caught is that they get a lot smarter about how they operate. As you just heard from the netizen's comment I shared, his girlfriend broke up with him after they got back together, and even though she was still cheating on him, he never caught her, which is probably because she got better at hiding what she was doing.
So maybe you could stay in a relationship, but it's just not going to be a healthy, committed relationship. There might be more breakdowns.
I think one thing men underestimate is how loyal we are to the person we believe gives us the most sexual satisfaction. There are women. Yeah, we are.
Say that again.
Women are incredibly loyal to the man that gives us the most sexual satisfaction.
Really, over like financial security or safety or providing status.
A lot of the time they can be. I'm not saying all of the time, but a lot of the time they can be. I know women who will wait for a man who's in jail simply because, not because he's the best, but she's all he knows. since she's been with him, she hasn't touched another human being. So that's all she knows. And women that are like that, they're not as curious. That's all he knows. But when she's got that curiosity and she opens herself up to being pleased by other people, it becomes difficult to revert back to monogamy.
Really?
Yeah, it becomes very difficult.
I can be pleased by someone else as well, or maybe it's better or
It can
different.
be man or woman. It could be man or woman. When you open that door up for her to unlock that part of her to somebody else, it becomes difficult to reverse. So I'm saying this from a female perspective. I would love to hear from a male perspective what it's like when it comes to cheating. But there is a lack of respect that comes afterwards, and there's a willingness to try again. And it just means she rarely stops because she's now checked out of the relationship.
And do you think if a man cheats within a relationship that he could stop cheating in that relationship?
It's difficult again.
It's difficult.
Yeah, I still think it's a difficult thing. I would say it's difficult. I don't know how definite it is, because it would have to come to a real understanding. He loses his family, but for women, it's just the potential of domestic violence that comes with it as well. I just think it's better to just let her go rather than hold her and then have so much rage, and either rage towards her or rage towards yourself. Either way, it's not good. And I know that sounds too definitive and too negative, but in the original, when I first started my practice, I used to take a lot of my inspiration from Esther Perel, where she was like, you can rebuild, have those conversations. What I noticed is the rebuilding is just buying time. Yeah.
For the inevitable.
For the inevitable.
Like maybe it lasts another 4 to 8 years.
Maybe 50 years ago when there weren't dating apps, it might kind of undo itself. In this day and age, when there's so many alternatives combined with almost what they see as permission, it means delaying the divorce.
Yeah. It's too easy for people to get a divorce or break up with someone and then turn to social media so they can find the next thing. But in reality, it's not that easy. Still, Sadia's right. The temptation is always there. And because it's on your phone, it's always in your home. So that guy or girl who may have smiled at you one time at work is just a message away.
Why do you think women cheat, or the ones that have communicated why they cheated? What's the main reason women cheat in a long-term relationship? And can a relationship repair after cheating occurs? You've heard from a lot of women.
Yeah,
who have been cheated on and who have also cheated.
I don't know where to start here. I struggle immensely with the kind of way that this is being framed. The kind of, Sadia, the talk about, women cheat because they don't respect their man, which I think even that is so many people cheat because they are craving an emotional connection that they're not getting inside their relationship. I mean, how many women are with men that are never present, who don't show up for them, who, are workaholic, obsessed with their business, obsessed with something else. And then all of a sudden they find that they develop an emotional connection with someone on the outside that maybe started innocently enough, but, that emotional connection turned into something more.
Matt's right when he says that women cheat for various reasons. But for me, respect will always be a massive thing, because if the respect was there, you just wouldn't do it. While this may be a terrible analogy, I liken it to walking through your grandma's home with muddy shoes. Something I hope you wouldn't do, because you're not an asshole and you respect your grandmother and her house. Also, I always say that you should be wary of these seemingly innocent connections that you or your partner make with people outside of your relationship. While these don't always lead to instances of cheating, if you don't have proper boundaries, you could find yourself in hot water.
I don't, it's a very male picture in some ways you're painting of women, this idea that they are essentially just, it comes from a place of essentially disrespect and contempt for their man, and it's just a bit of sex on the side. Maybe there's some of those, but it feels like we're missing a giant archetype there, which is the woman who is craving connection. And
emotional connection?
Yeah, emotional connection.
But then
and that's the precursor to a physical connection.
So would you say the fault lies in the man not meeting her needs, or in the cheater herself?
I don't know that I think of it that way. Well, I think
because
she's obviously transgressing in terms of the boundaries of the relationship, and that's wrong, and that's, you know, on either side to not have that conversation that, hey, I'm not getting my needs met, can we talk about this? Or even, hey, I'm having feelings for someone, I need to talk about this because I don't want it to go to a place I can't come back from.
A lot of people give Matt slack, but he's not wrong in what he's saying. When you're in a relationship, you and your partner have to know how to communicate with each other. And if it reaches a point in which neither of you feels like you can get what you want or need, call it quits. Many people who cheat don't want to have that difficult conversation, and they'd rather go out and stab their partner in the back instead.
So that of course that's wrong. But I'm more just suggesting that I think the scope of why people cheat is a lot wider than, you know, I don't respect my husband, and so I'm just going to go and do this. I struggle with this idea that women are, once they've cheated, they just can't look at their man the same way again, and that they've just now fundamentally lost something.
Do you think they can look at the man with love and respect and
I think they
admiration?
can look at him the same way, but not if he forgives her.
Well, but this is...
That's actually what I think is
what's really
the
interesting
problem.
about that, Sadia, is it's a real kind of almost prejudice against women and their capacity for kindness. It was almost the same as saying that women are just inherently more cruel than men.
But I'm saying that with the preface that they've already cheated, which is a lack of kindness.
No, I hear you. I know that. I get the scenario.
So it's a skewed. It's not women.
What you're saying is men are
women.
capable of kindness, compassion, and future connection with someone that forgives them. But women are not capable of such kindness.
I would argue it's not that they're not capable of such kindness, but we're talking about a market of women who already demonstrated a lack of kindness through the cheating. So in that subgroup, absolutely, they're lacking kindness.
No, I hear you. We're talking just about people who have cheated.
Yeah.
Whether it's a man or woman, if someone cheats on their partner and their partner forgives them, they'll probably see them differently, especially if it happens more than once. When you forgive and stay with a cheater, the cheater might start to think that even if they do it again, you won't leave. I can't tell you how many stories I've covered on Reddit in which this exact thing happened. In any case, I think because men and women want and expect different things from each other, how an episode of cheating is resolved will be affected by that.
But to kind of other women in that way, where it's like a woman is incapable of having the ability to go, oh my God, I have really
Made a mistake or something.
fucked up here. I have hurt the person that I love, who loves me. I've hurt this person that I've made a vow to, that I'm in this relationship with, who didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with them. That's on me. And that, you know, if this person is kind enough, if they have the space in their heart to forgive me, I'm going to honor that.
Yeah.
The idea that that's impossible to me suggests that you feel like women are somehow missing a compassion gene
It's
that men
not that they're
have.
missing a compassion gene.
The thing about cheating is that it's not something that happens by mistake. It's a decision someone makes, and it reflects the fact that they don't, or at least didn't give a shit about their partner in that moment, or the moments that led up to things going down. I don't care how bad they feel once that post-nut clarity takes over.
They're looking for protectiveness in a way that men don't look for in women.
I think that's incredibly reductive.
But
I find that really reductive.
But
The
what I
idea that what
find-
women are, the only thing women really care about is it. And what does protect mean exactly?
A protectiveness is like a biological, if we take it in an evolutionary sense, a protectiveness would be, from an alpha perspective in an evolutionary terms, it would be a man that protects his kin from cuckoldry. It protects his children being born from somebody else, essentially, paternal uncertainty. Now, from a primitive perspective, we look for men who not only can gather resources, but can also prevent paternal uncertainty. Now, when he's missing that fundamental, like he's not bothered about paternal uncertainty.
Yo, this is facts, and I'm rocking with Sadia 100% on this one. and it lines up perfectly as to why a woman would dump a guy if another man hit on her in front of him, and he didn't do anything to protect her, or simply came off as looking weak. Growing up and going through college and beyond, this is the kind of thing I'd see all the time.
It's not that
But
we're...
he is bothered. Let's say he's brokenhearted. He's like, oh my God, I'm crushed. You're saying she would have had respect for him had he shown up at the apartment as she was about to have sex with the guy and beat him up.
No,
but given that she already did on the side and she came back, the fact that he missed the moment and he's now crushed and hurt, that's him not protecting her?
Here's the thing. Masculinity is not about availability and consistency. Masculinity is about knowing when to walk away as well from a female perspective. There are endless women who have men that message, double text, triple text. What puts them off in that moment is not his kindness and compassion. It's his unwillingness to walk away when he's being disrespected.
But you are...
I wouldn't just say it's his unwillingness to walk away when he's being disrespected. I think it has a lot to do with him looking desperate and as if he has no other options, but that's a topic for another day.
Framing forgiveness as the antithesis of masculinity.
But you are framing forgiveness as acceptance. I think forgive me if I was to do that, but accept me is a different experience.
No, forgiveness is saying this relationship means more to me than my pride or my ego.
Oh.
I love you. I want to make this work, and I'm going to be a big enough man to make this work in spite of this. And that makes him the bigger person. It doesn't make him emasculate. It doesn't. He's not. You're framing forgiveness as he's emasculated himself by forgiving her, and she can never get over that moment of him emasculating.
This is where I don't agree. I don't think sticking with or even forgiving a cheater makes you a bigger or better person, and it's not dependent solely on your pride or ego. If I was cheated on by my partner, I wouldn't want to stick around and work it out because she's already told me how she feels through her actions. I don't care how sorry she is now. In that moment, she was willing to put everything on the line for another guy and even risk fucking up my health if God forbid he had anything. While it's not super common, depending on where you live, for a cheating wife or husband to contract HIV and give it to their partner, it does happen. I mean, here are just some of the threads you can find online where people share these types of stories. My friend with benefits gave me HIV, and now I refuse to tell my wife. She will leave me if she knows I'm still seeing my friend. How can I avoid spreading it to my wife? She can never know. I cheated on my husband and got HIV without knowing. I have had unprotected sex with my husband and nursed my baby many times since then. I just found out. What can I do to make this right? Now, I know these are extreme examples, but I wouldn't want to be with someone who's so inconsiderate. You and your partner should be each other's shield against the world, not the ones to bring each other down.
I believe that very, very strongly. And the reason being is that the relationship should mean loads to you, but part of you should understand for her to do this, we don't see the relationship in the same light. Your inability to understand the importance of reciprocity is what makes you less masculine. It's not a case of forgive me all day, every day. But for me to step out on you means that this relationship means something different in your eyes than it does in my eyes.
But you're saying it's different if it's a man.
I wouldn't say it's totally different. I think the disrespect is there, but I think...
No, but you said if it's a woman she forgives him, or if it's a woman and she forgives him, it's fine and it can all work. But if a man forgives her,
I said it's difficult. I said it's very difficult. But I do think men can compartmentalize sex in a way women can't. Similarly, when we were talking about male cheats, you were very quick to say that the cheater is a problem. But when females cheat, it's an emotional need she was outsourcing, which seems to be forgivable.
I didn't say she wasn't wrong. I said it was wrong.
Only when I probed that.
Oh, things were getting tense. But I'll end the video there. I'll leave the links to the 2 videos these clips were taken from in the description, so you can check out the whole discussion. I think a lot of the heat in these conversations stems from the fact that men and women want different things from their partner, and certain requirements are more important. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed today's video on coffee and popcorn, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.